All right, I just started the recording. Hello and welcome to Baddies in Tech TryHackMe Night. Tonight, we're going to review the security operations room, and that should wrap up our segment of Intro to Cybersecurity. I believe that's the room. And I just want to say that I am recording for a VOD for people that were unable to attend. It's only recording my voice. It's not recording anyone else's voice. And that, if I ask questions, please do not feel pressured to answer. There's no obligation for anyone to answer or respond when I ask questions. And once again, I'm only recording my voice and the screen. I'm not recording anyone else's voice. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Security operations. So TryHackMe has a really nice little picture here of what security operations is. In an ideal world, you see there's collaboration going on, there's dashboards, there's looks like people are sharing information, people are reading information. It could be a log or it could be really anything. There's looking at metrics to see what's happening, in the world and stuff like that. TryHackMe says a security operations center, SOC, is a team of IT security professionals tasked with monitoring a company's network and systems 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their purpose of monitoring is to find vulnerabilities on the network, detect unauthorized activity, discover policy violations, detect intrusions, support with incident response. So our first one that we have here, find vulnerabilities on the network. It says a vulnerability is a weakness that an attacker can exploit to carry out things beyond their permission level. A vulnerability might be discovered in any device's software, operating system, and programs on the network, such as a server or a computer. For instance, the SOC might discover a set of Microsoft Windows computers that must be patched against a specific published vulnerability. Strictly speaking, vulnerabilities are not necessarily the SOC's responsibility. However, unfixed vulnerabilities affect the security level of the entire company. And that makes a lot of sense. If you've ever worked in infrastructure or in systems, you'll know that in some places, the SOC and the security folks, they act as kind of like a governance body in a sense, where they don't have access to servers. They're not out here remediating vulnerabilities. They are able to scan for them. And then, of course, the systems team or, your system admins, they would be the ones remediating the vulnerabilities, which makes sense. You separate those duties. Detect unauthorized activity. Consider the case where an attacker discovered the username and password of one of the employees and used it to log into a company system. It is crucial to detect this kind of unauthorized activity quickly before it causes any damage. Many clues can help us detect this, such as geographic location. That is a really big one. You'll notice sometimes when you log in, maybe from your phone after you've cleared the history and all that, or maybe a different device, you'll get an email. I can say Google is really good about this. You'll get an email saying, hey, you've logged in to your device from XYZ, right? And it'll give you like all this information. Sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's incorrect, but you know that it's you in a sense, because sometimes I'm using a VPN. So if I use the VPN on my phone, it might act genuinely say I logged in from Seattle. And, that's not accurate. But that is a really big one, because if you know that your users don't live in a certain country, or this person has never traveled there, that's a dead giveaway right there. That some kind of unauthorized activity is trying to go down. Discover policy violations. A security policy is a set of rules and procedures created to help protect a company against security threats and ensure compliance. What is considered a violation could vary from one company to another. Examples include downloading pirated media files and sending confidential company files insecurely. That's a big one, the sending confidential company files insecurely. You're not supposed to really send company files outside of the company that you work for. That's really discouraged, because if you are sending, say you work in a really important part of the company that releases software, and you have the prototype for this new software or hardware that you guys are building, and you've emailed it to yourself because you say, you know what, I want to work at it. I want to work on it from home. But what if you've been hacked at home? Or what if you do get hacked? Or what if you leave the information unprotected because it's your home, right? It's kind of like the one hacking group that decided to hack the Plex server of an employee, and then they were able to gain access to the company, all because the employee at some point communicated between home and work, or they logged in some kind of way. So just, make sure company stuff stays on company stuff and personal stuff stays on personal stuff. Detect intrusions. Intrusions refer to system and network intrusions. One example scenario would be an attacker successfully exploiting our web application. Another example scenario would be a user visiting a malicious site and getting their computer infected. Those are very common and they happen. And that's the SOC's job to detect it. Support with the incident response. An incident can be an observation, a policy violation, an intrusion attempt, or something more damaging, such as a major breach. Responding correctly to a severe incident is not an easy task. The SOC can support the incident response team handle the situation. This room focuses on the SOC services and everyday work. We recommend that you finish the introduction to the defensive security room before going through this one. And we already went through introduction to defensive. So what does a SOC stand for? Right here, Security Operations Center. Let's go ahead and put that in there. And how many hours a day does the SOC monitor the network? Do you think they operate like 9 to 5? It's definitely not 9 to 5. It's 24/7, 365 is how the SOC operates, because they need to be around all the time when everything's happening. All right, let's see here. So we have our elements of security operations. In this task, we will talk about example data sources that the SOC relies on, the resources that the SOC provides, and example scenario. So our data sources can be, the SOC uses many data sources to monitor the network for signs of intrusions and to detect any malicious behavior. Some of these are server logs, DNS activity, firewall logs, DHCP logs. Server logs, which if we've ever looked at Event Viewer, you'll know that there's tons of server logs, and sometimes they get aggregated to places. And server logs could also just be, some kind of log for your application that's logging this information. So there are many types of servers on a network, such as a mail server, web server, domain controller on the Microsoft Windows network. Logs contain information about various activities, such as successful and failed login attempts, among many others. There's a trove of information that can be found in server logs. Server logs are like your go-to place for things like this. DNS activity. DNS stands for Domain Name System, and it is the protocol responsible for converting the domain name, such as tryhackme.com, into an IP address, such as 10.3.13.37, among other domain name related queries. One analogy of the DNS query is asking, how can I reach TryHackMe? And someone replying with the postal address. In practice, if someone tries to browse to tryhackme.com, the DNS server has to resolve it and can log the DNS query to monitoring. The SOC can gather information about domain names that internal systems are trying to communicate with by merely inspecting DNS queries. And that makes a lot of sense that DNS would be a data source, because domain names really can help you out a lot in an environment, along with the IPs. Depending on how the environment is set up, you can learn a lot about a server, oftentimes based on its domain name, especially if an organization has a decent naming convention. Firewall logs. A firewall is a device that controls network packets entering and leaving the network, mainly by letting them through or blocking them. Consequently, firewall logs can reveal much information about what packets passed or tried to pass through the firewall. DHCP logs. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and it is responsible for assigning an IP address to systems that try to connect to the network. One analogy of the DHCP request would be when you enter a fancy restaurant and the waiter welcomes you and guides you to an empty table. Know that DHCP has automatically provided your device with the network settings whenever you join a network without manual configuration. By inspecting DHCP transactions, we can learn about the device that joined the network. And that's very true. When you have static configuration over DHCP configuration, they both have their uses, of course, and you have some servers that you definitely don't want the IP address changing after reboots or, occasionally. And then you have some where it's like, yeah, the IP can change. Or, yeah, the IP can change from within this pool of IP addresses. That's totally fine because you've reserved it. So that information being logged is really good too. These are some of the most common data source types. However, many other sources can be used to aid the network security monitoring and the other tasks of the SOC. Oh, okay. I completely just made up that whole sentence. These are some of the most common data sources. However, many other sources can be used to aid in the network security monitoring and other tasks of the SOC. A SOC might use a security information and event management (SIEM) system. A SIEM aggregates the data from different sources so that the SOC can effectively correlate the data and respond to attacks. So hold on. Here's a really good picture of a SIEM. And what it's doing here, you can see that you have all of your different types of logs. and it's being fed into this one device. And this one device is then displaying all of that information in a much more human readable, logical format. So you don't have to, I mean, you still can, of course, double check, but you have your charts and your graphs and all your information that's really useful and very visible for you to be able to connect the dots a lot easier. So you don't have to go and say, oh, okay, so something happened here on the web server, and then try and use the firewall logs to figure out how they got the DNS activity, to figure out how they were able to then get a computer on the domain and hack the database. So it makes a lot of sense. One of them I've used is called QRadar. I liked it. It was pretty decent. It did what it needed to do. It's a very solid. It seemed very robust in my opinion, and I use it for a lot of research and investigation tasks. So, SOC services. SOC services include reactive and proactive services in addition to other services. Reactive services refer to the task initiated after detecting an intrusion or malicious event. Example reactive services include monitor security posture, vulnerability management, malware analysis, intrusion detection, and reporting. So with your monitoring security posture, this is the primary role of the SOC. And in it includes, and it includes monitoring the network and computers for security alerts and notifications and responding to them as the need dictates. This is your, user logging in from country they've never been to. Vulnerability management. This refers to finding vulnerabilities in the company's systems and fixing them. The SOC can assist with this task, but not necessarily execute it. We talked about how sometimes your SOC is a governance body and they run the scans for the vulnerabilities and your systems people patch them. Malware analysis. The SOC might recover malware programs that reach the network. The SOC can do basic analysis by executing it in a controlled environment. However, more advanced analysis requires sending to a dedicated team. Intrusion detection. An intrusion detection system, IDS, is used to detect and log intrusions and suspicious packets. The SOC's job is to maintain such a system, monitor its alerts, and go through its logs as the need dictates. Reporting. It is essential to report incidents and alarms. Reporting is necessary to ensure a smooth workflow and to support compliance requirements. Proactive services refer to tasks handled by the SOC without any indicator of an intrusion. Example proactive services carried out by the SOC include network security monitoring, NSM. This focuses on monitoring the network data and analyzing the traffic to detect signs of intrusions. Threat hunting. With threat hunting, the SOC assumes an intrusion has already taken place and begins to hunt to see if they can confirm this assumption. Threat intelligence. Threat intelligence focuses on learning about potential adversaries and their tactics and techniques to improve the company's defenses. The purpose would be to establish a threat-informed defense. Other services by the SOC include cybersecurity training. Many data breaches and intrusions can be avoided by raising users' security awareness and arming them with solid security training. So, an example scenario. One role in the SOC is the SOC analyst. A SOC analyst is responsible for network security monitoring, and log management. Let's consider the following scenarios. While monitoring the network traffic, a SOC analyst notices a particular DNS query repeating every minute. This behavior is not that of a user browsing the internet, and every precisely 1 minute they are making a new query. The SOC analyst checks the source of the DNS queries and identifies the cause as one laptop on the network. They isolate it and inspect it for signs of infection. They discover that a program using DNS to communicate with a malicious server. Soon, they find out that the computer was infected after visiting a malicious website by reviewing the computer logs. As a result, the laptop began communicating with a malicious server by hiding the messages in DNS queries. The laptop is cleaned and threat hunting starts to ensure that no other computers were infected. It's a really solid scenario and probably maybe very common. I'm not sure, but it's a good one because we have our SOC analysts reviewing logs, reviewing the CM, and seeing that something suspicious is happening. Now, they could have just decided that, hey, maybe this person is just doing something kind of strange on their laptop, right? Like maybe they're, doing something odd, just browsing websites. But then they notice that it doesn't seem human. And that may be something that could be used to determine maybe not if something happened like that. Like, okay, this was too quick for a human to do it. Like I know at my job, I'm able to tell when people have issues with certain code. I can tell if it was them physically or if it was a script, because the timing when you run scripts and automations are really interesting. They're really, really interesting once you do the deep dive. And a lot of times I can tell, like, okay, this wasn't a person. This was definitely an automation or some kind of script that's doing this. And the SOC analyst noticed it was exactly on the minute, every minute. And then they were able to isolate, determine that the device was malicious, that the queries were malicious, and that the user got it because they visited a malicious website. And that's pretty much it. And then, of course, the laptop is cleaned and returned to I'm not sure about the return to the user, but, and then they try to see if any other devices are infected on the network. What does NSM stand for? NSM is Network Security Monitoring. Let's put that one in there. All right, we got it. And now we're at our practical example of SOC. So, all right, we have a road. We've got the yellow brick road. We've got a brick and we've got our castle up here. And we can see that, leading up to it might be a little jump here, but then you got to get over this wall. Once you get over this wall, maybe this is a firewall. Once you get over this wall, you've got, you're over the wall, but it's like you see this huge hill right in front of you and you're like, all right, I'm in, but oh my goodness, look at where I have to go. And once you get over that hurdle, it's like, all right, well, I've pivoted, I've escalated my privileges or whatever you really need to do. And then boom, you're in the castle. And it could be read the opposite way too, but We use a firewall to stop an ongoing attack in this task. A firewall is a device that inspects network packets entering and leaving a network or system. The most basic types of firewalls inspect source and destination traffic. An IP address is a logical address. that allows you to communicate over the internet. One analogy is the postal address. For example, a company needs a valid postal address to send and receive parcels. Think of the IP packet as a mail parcel. Source and destination port numbers where applicable. A computer has an IP address. Furthermore, each program on the computer needs a port number to communicate over the network. Back to our analogy, a port number would be similar to a room number within a company. A firewall rule might be similar to the following. You've got your source, your destination. So your source is your original, where you are. Destination is where you're going to. The source port is whatever port. Well, it says any, so really any port. But the destination port, meaning this IP is receiving traffic on this port, and its action is pass or accept. Then you have your source IP, your destination IP, source port, any, leaving. Destination is not accepting traffic on port 23. Drop these packets. So if you read it backwards, I guess you could say packets destined for port 23 to here, from here are dropped. The following rule dictates the following. All packets from source IP address 172.16.4.1 to destination IP address 10.10.10.41 to the destination port 80 will be allowed, hence pass. All packets from source IP address 172.16.8.1 to the destination IP address 10.10.10.81 to the destination port 23 will be blocked. Click View Site to begin the simulation. As a member of the SOC team, while monitoring the network and systems, you'll notice one malicious IP address attacking one of the company's computers. It seems that they are targeting many destination ports with malicious packets, but it seems best if we can block it at the firewall level. Okay. Oh. Start simulation. The website at 203.0.110.1 is under attack. Quickly add some firewall rules to stop the server from crashing. Packets in red are from the attacker's machine. Okay. So we see that the attacker's machine. Okay, this is the one. Oh, we got to be quick. Oh my goodness. Wait. Oh, wait. Maybe I didn't understand how this worked. 198. Oh, no. Okay, I get what I was trying to do. They were going so fast. Okay, so we need to block over port. Oh, we don't know what port. I don't remember. Port 80. It's not port 80. Oh, did they tell us the port? I completely forgot. 22. Oh, okay. All right. So we got that. It's TryHackMe blocked. That's going to be the flag. That was actually really cool. At first I didn't understand what was going on here, but that was pretty cool. Let's see. Can we open it again? Okay. I don't remember where it told us the port. Did it tell us the port on maybe one of those other screens? 203 over port 80. Is that the one I dropped? Or was it? Oh, whoops. Well, it looks like we got DDoSed. Let's see. 1834. This one, was it 22? 80? I'm not sure how we figured out the port the previous time. Oh, maybe it's all of them? Let's try that again. Maybe it's saying block all ports. Okay, add rule. They're going a lot faster. Okay. All right. Oh, I see. Okay, so it is definitely one of these IPs. I mean, one of these ports, but I'm not quite sure which port is the one that I could try it again. I want to know, so I'm gonna try it again. 198.34.01. Is it one of these? Nope. Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Okay, it's port 80. I felt like we tried 80 at the beginning and it was blocking it. But anyway, so that's going to be it. That's going to conclude our intro to cybersecurity, and that's going to conclude our security operations room. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, thank you for showing up. I'll go ahead and let me end the VOD here. I will post the VOD after the event once it gets uploaded, and we will most likely move on from this one. Let's see, how do I feel like we go through this every week. I can never remember. Let's see. Learn. I was reviewing some of these learning paths, and I think the next good one would be either Pen Test Plus for us or the junior pen testing route. I think the junior pen testing route is good because it wants you to have finished intro to cybersecurity, and then we'll go on to introduction to pen testing. So that's the one we'll most likely start with next week. And it'll probably be pen testing fundamentals here. Yeah. So that's the first one in that one.